Welcome to Tummy Talk Talk. We have a special episode today where I interview Lisa about her tummy tuck surgery experience. Lisa opens up about the emotional roller coaster of consulting with multiple surgeons, the vulnerability, pre surgery preparations, the challenges of feeling unheard in the whole medical process. She also candidly discusses the surprises of her recovery, from the relief after having her drains removed to the unexpected timeline of regaining her athletic strength. So, join us today as Lisa accounts her path from the initial consultations to finding her groove back again in the gym 6 years post surgery. Her journey shows you just how strong this human spirit can be and how essential it is to embrace the ups and downs of this particular recovery process. So stay tuned for an inspiring conversation that sheds light on the realities of surgical recovery and the resilience that it demands. Let's get to it.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ryan, a CrossFit trainer, pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach, and a former tummy tuck patient.
And I'm Munira Hudani, a physiotherapist with a specialized interest in diastasis rectus abdominis and post-op recovery. Together, we are bringing you the first podcast specifically on tummy tucks that takes you beyond the surgery table, giving you the real, unfiltered truth about tummy tuck recovery, rehab, and returning to fitness with confidence.
Before we dive in, just a quick reminder. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not replace medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for personalized guidance.
We are here to break down what no one else is talking about, from navigating the highs and lows of recovery to practical tips for healing, movement, and feeling like yourself again. So, whether you're preparing for surgery or are deep in recovery, we've got you covered.
This is Tummy Tuck Talk. Welcome to Tummy Tuck Talk, the podcast where aesthetics of the core meet function and fitness, and we explore how to get the most out of your tummy tuck journey. If this is your first time joining us, we're so excited to have you. And if you've tuned in before, welcome back. I'm Lisa Ryan, a CrossFit trainer and pregnancy and postpartum athleticism coach, along with a tummy tuck patient. Back in 2019, I had my surgery, and let me tell you, there was so much I didn't know about recovery. Now, I'm here to share the real deal, what works, what doesn't, and how you get back to doing things you love safely and confidently.
And I'm Munira Hudani, a physiotherapist who helps patients rebuild their strength, function, and confidence after the surgery. So, together, we're here to empower you with practical and clear guidance for every stage of your tummy tuck recovery.
Today, I am sharing all about my journey with tummy tuck surgery, from choosing my surgeon to early recovery days and then getting back to the gym and doing the CrossFit that I love. I truly believe that it's so important that we all share our unique stories, as we never know who we will be helping, who it will resonate with, and who we may impact along the way. Everyone has such different, unique surgery stories with this particular surgery. And by sharing them, we can all help others on their unique journeys. So, Munira, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so Lisa, let's start at the very beginning. The decision to have this surgery is such a personal one. So I wanted to know is what was it like for you starting the consultation process? How was it like? What did you feel? What did you experience?
Yeah, so I knew it was surgery and I wasn't ready to have it yet, but I knew that the process would take a long time, and I was very nervous about finding the right surgeon because I was very nervous about wanting to get back to CrossFit the way I wanted to CrossFit. I started early, so I didn't feel pressured. And talking to surgeons, I think it was extra hard because I had went through about 8 months of really rebuilding my core with the large diastasis I had. I felt really good. I still did not like the way that I looked. I had a very large protruding belly. So aesthetically, I did not like that. I also was concerned because my tissues were very thinned My organs were not held into my body. So there was also that concern just from a medical perspective, aging, right? So it was definitely the decision was twofold. It was an aesthetic decision, but also concern for aging and possible hernias down the road or different things like that. I ended up meeting with three surgeons. And I always like to tell people, like, if you haven't gone through this process yet, some of the places, whether you decide to go with that surgeon or not, will take naked pictures of you. Like you have a little underwear thing on, but it's very vulnerable. And this is coming from someone who, at that point, I had my business Instagram and my belly was all over the internet. People were looking at it and I was doing things in the gym they couldn't believe. And so I was flashing my belly all around in that particular situation. It really sucked. It felt awful. And so I like to prepare people for that because I don't know, it was just, it threw me off how upsetting that felt to me, someone that was already pretty confident.
Mm, yeah.
So that's very emotionally hard. And then it's hard when you're in the consult to think clearly because you're already
Right.
like emotional and you've gotten naked and taken a picture and it's what is happening. So you've got that on top of everything. Another reason I always tell people to bring your list of questions and literally just read from them and write down the answers because you are so worked up. You'll forget everything. So the next part to this was I needed someone to understand what I wanted to get back to physically. The first surgeon told
Yeah.
me, you'll get like 80% strength back, which was devastating to me. I cried all the way home. I called a friend. Second surgeon told me, I don't know about that. It's very individual. You possibly could get 100. I mean, I'm not one to say what can happen. I like
Mm.
that answer a lot better. Third surgeon, I explained all this CrossFit stuff I wanted to do, and he wanted to throw in a bunch of mesh. I think I scared him. He didn't really understand. And he's like, well, we're going to do sutures and mesh and da da da. Now, I'm not saying mesh is never an answer for you, depending on what your unique situation is. There's a lot we don't know about this surgery. I just knew for me, after seeing two other surgeons that were not going to do that, that was probably not the surgeon that I wanted to go with.
Yeah.
The second surgeon really understood my athletics. The first surgeon who said the 80%, I knew he's a very good surgeon. I know people that went to him, a couple OBs had recommended him. I think he's a phenomenal surgeon. I don't feel like he understood me. And I just really struggled with that. Second surgeon, totally got it. And not only was he like the second surgeon was the chief of plastic surgery at the University of Michigan, but he totally got it. So that was my fit. But I always like to say this too, like even after I picked him, it wasn't until maybe 2 months before the surgery, because I booked 6 months out, that I finally felt like I trusted him. Like I had another
Okay.
follow-up meeting with more questions, and very, really struggled with this. I was very nervous. So
Yeah.
it took me some time to get to there. And then the final point to all of this is I always like to say, too, looking back at my situation, how important it is to take the time to digest the data you get from these consults. You are too emotionally worked up to really think about what did they say? What other questions do I have? Like you have to give yourself time to process that, however long that takes, because it will help you make the right decision for you, whether it's getting surgery or not getting surgery, or this surgeon versus that surgeon, right?
Yeah.
So that's another
Yeah.
thing that I learned from the consultation process.
Yeah. It seems like just going through consultations, it becomes a bit of a whirlwind of just data being thrown at you, but also emotions that you're experiencing. And, when you're trying to advocate for your own goals,
Yeah.
but you're also, and not have them being dismissed,
Yeah.
but also dealing with surgeons who may not be that bad. You,
Yeah.
you don't feel too uncomfortable with them.
Yes.
You're comfortable enough, but like you're trying to determine who is the right fit. And sometimes it comes down to how you feel with them, but then sometimes it comes down to you weighing that against, are they going to support you in, if it's an athletic goal, are they going to support you in that?
Yeah.
And maybe there might be some give and take. And so I love that you took time to just process it all and you didn't rush into your decision. and that you went back. I don't think a lot of people go back again for another
Yeah.
consultation with the
Yes.
same surgeon.
Yep.
So that's something that's unique, and it's definitely worthwhile for people who are listening to consider doing that.
Yeah.
But just if you're like it's not 100% sure, but you're close to it, go back and see them again.
One little thing I'll add real quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like a couple of them, one was free. The other two, I think it was like $100 fee.
Yes.
Like they're all different. But when I went back, they didn't charge me again,
Oh,
which is
interesting.
interesting. Yeah. And I don't know, everyone's different. So I don't know exactly how they would do that.
Yeah.
But even if they do, this surgery is what? $10,000, like another
Right.
$100 to make sure you're getting the right guy or
Exactly.
girl is really important. And the other thing I was thinking when you were talking, Munera, the first two surgeons, they explained how they were going to repair me in the exact same way.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It was interesting, pretty much. I just, second surgeon got me, right? So there's
Ah,
that. So
yes.
you can often find that and then find, okay, which one is the one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Wow. All right. So let's move on into the surgery itself and
Okay.
then the first few days after getting it done. So, what was your first night like after the surgery and
Yeah.
then into the first week?
So the way they did it at U of M was it was outpatient. So I went home that day, but that made me nervous because I was staying at my parents' house, so I didn't have to be in my house with the kids. And my parents are elderly and they can't stay up all night with me and do all these things. I had a nurse friend come stay the night with me who worked night shifts and was used to staying up all night. It was so great. And just, I really needed someone there with me all night between
Yeah.
the meds I had to take at what time, sleeping at 45-minute intervals. I couldn't really sleep, not knowing what was going on. Just, you need someone to take care of you, like all night, totally help going to the bathroom, everything. So that was very important. Some people stay in the hospital, so that's fine. But if you're not, I think that's one thing to consider. The first week was really rough. I wish that I knew how much better I would feel once my drains came out. I don't think I realized that the drains were causing so much discomfort.
Yes. Yes.
I
It's
wish I
very
knew that
common.
because I knew that there was some little light at the end of the tunnel. So I always talk about that. That's a big thing I remember. I slept in one of those electronic recliners for almost 2 weeks. I did not feel comfortable getting out of bed. I was, I could walk without a walker and all of that, but everything else I was hunched over. It was rough in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what about into the first week? Was there anything that kind of caught you off guard? So, beyond the drains, is there anything else that
Yeah.
surprised you?
Yeah. I think really after the first 2 weeks, I did start to feel better. I think the biggest thing that surprised me was that I couldn't stand up straight all day long until week 5. I thought it
Right.
was going to happen a little sooner than that. So that was
Okay.
surprising. Although one day it just happened. Like it would be like where I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I'm straight. And then by 10 a.m. I was hunched again. I was like, oh my God. Like it was just like, oh my God. And then one day I just was straight and I was straight all day. It was just like, oh, I guess today's the day.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think people just got to hang in there if it's going slowly. Although if you start to go any much longer than that, then we always say get some help and get some help
Yeah.
standing up and don't
Exactly.
let it. But that was before, like, that was before, like, I was my own test case, right? We didn't look into any of this stuff yet. And I had a PT helping me that was local. And it was cool for her because she's never gone through the surgery with one person before, right? From the start. She's seen people later on the road that maybe had some issues, but she's never been through at the start. So she was there, which was really great too. But I think that's the other thing that really surprised me about the early recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's also very powerful to hear that there were things that you expected
Yeah.
in the initial first few weeks, but how what actually happened in reality were very different. And
Yeah.
that's what happens in this recovery for most people. There's a picture in their mind of how things are going to go, and then you either go down a completely different route. For some, it is exactly how you expected, and you
Yep.
prepare as much as you can for that. But it's not always the case. And it's so powerful to hear your account of what happened in the first week
Yeah.
after the surgery. But then, what about if we zoom out a little bit?
Yeah.
What happened once you were past those initial few weeks? How did your recovery evolve? whether that's on an emotional level, a physical level. Like, understandably, there will be some natural progression in your body's strength and physical function. But yeah, what were the things you were doing physically at that stage? Did compression garments help you? Did they play a role? Any breakthroughs or setbacks? So I'll
Yeah.
let you just take it from there.
Yeah, that was interesting because I had in my mind, I'm not getting back to CrossFit until 6 months. Like I had like worst case scenario plans out, like just so I was ready. Like I knew I would be swollen for a long time. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do CrossFit till 6 months. I'll maybe work out, but I'm not gonna do CrossFit. And I had all of this. And I was also very fearful, right? There's a lot of sensations in your belly. I'm afraid I don't want anything to, I think a lot of people fear the repair failing, and there's that whole thing. There's just so much, right? And then you have these weird sensations, and your belly feels like phantom belly because it's not my belly anymore. And then it takes a long time to be able to take a deep breath. And somewhere within 3 to 6 months, I think I finally could get a full breath. I thought, oh my gosh, am I ever going to be able to relax my belly again? I know in those early stages, that went on so much longer than I thought. I felt like I
Yeah.
could not relax. It was awful. And I had to work on breathing and the stuff we have in our program in the beginning, like breathing into different. I practiced that for a long time. And sometimes I was just like, is this ever going to happen? But I kept practicing and eventually it all came back together. And that was really great. So that kind of stuff was cool for that window. I also did go back to CrossFit around 4 months, maybe a little sooner. I modified things. I got creative. I was so happy to be there. Like it was just like it was totally fine. When I first started working out, I worked out at home for a couple weeks just with some light weights, seated presses, like really careful with my core, obviously, just to move body weight lunges, that kind of stuff. I was happy to do that. I was terrified to do any core work once I was cleared to do it. My surgeons, you're good. And luckily, I had Nancy Boyd with me, my PT that I told you guys I worked with. She has a practice here. She's phenomenal. She helped me through a lot of those fears, like a modified hollow hold with my knees in barely. And I was just like terrified. So,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
something that can definitely happen with the surgery. Not to everybody. Some people feel okay and they progress back through and they're fine. But I was afraid. And I also had a lot of pain and sensations. I did have a lot of pain and sensations. So, that was tough doing. And that's what I remember a lot about that 3 to 6 month window is doing these basic core movements, progressive and getting back to it. Sometimes being afraid and other times thinking, wow, this is so hard, like trying to find my core again, like just connect back to it. So that's what I remember very much about that stage. Once I got closer to that 6 months mark, we can talk about in a second, but that's when things really took off. I
Oh,
had that compression garment on when I went to the gym. I put my surgery compression back on
okay.
for a long time. And then finally, around, I don't know, somewhere 4 to 5 months, I went to the lighter compression. Like it was very light. It was almost just like I needed it mentally. I don't
Right.
know what I was doing. Right. And then after 6 months, I finally got rid of it. It took me a really long time, guys. And like, I know you can't wear it forever, but be kind to yourself too. And just, you got to find the balance of
Yeah.
what's going to help.
Yeah. That's the thing. We're always saying to people, don't rush. Like, don't
Yes.
rush yourself to get yourself back to exercising too soon. But that also means don't rush yourself mentally. Don't try to
Yes.
force yourself to do something
Yes.
that you're not ready for. And if you're
Yes.
not ready to exercise or move without
Right.
compression,
Yes.
then don't do it. Start
Right.
with the compression. You want to ease back into everything.
Absolutely. And it's better that you're moving, right? Because we
Yeah.
not moving is not good either. So if
Yeah.
that's what you need to do to move for a little bit, again, we can't wear that forever.
Not forever, but it's a way in. It's like a way to get your
Yes.
foot in the door.
Yeah, that's
And then you
great.
can work
Yeah,
yourself out of that afterwards. But
absolutely.
also, just you mentioning how the ability to breathe took 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
That is what people don't hear a lot of.
Yes.
I don't think anybody's talking about breathing, to be honest,
Yes.
post op.
Right.
It is such a different experience when you're now dealing with a tighter abdominal wall that changes where your diaphragm actually sits in your chest and abdominal cavity, so it
Yeah.
pushes it up a little bit, and so things have repositioned. You're stiff, you're tight, you had general anesthesia. Like, there's so much that impacts your ability to breathe, And initially, it does feel because your body's trying to recover from being under anesthesia, but then you realize it's actually, I feel really tight. So if you are listening to this and you are post op and still feeling that it's hard for you to breathe, it comes back, but it's
Yes.
also something that it's quite common to have in your post-op experience. And then the other thing about this phantom belly,
Yeah.
that's another not talked about
Yeah.
phenomenon where you are now in a body that is new, but your brain hasn't necessarily caught up
Yeah.
to what just happened overnight. And so it still thinks that you have this protruding belly, and that takes time to adjust on a mental level. You might
Yeah.
still think that you're doming or protruding, or you might
Yep.
still feel like you have that sticking out and that self-consciousness that you may have had beforehand about in certain clothes. You might still have that afterwards, and it could last for a little while before it's completely gone. But yeah, there's that phantom experience. But yeah, so let's move on to a little bit later now. So
Yeah.
6 to 12 months, and this is probably where you started getting back to most of your athletic goals.
Yeah. Around 6 months, I was still fearful to get back to doing like toes to bar, all the things that sound scary after tummy tuck surgery. Then once I started doing them, it was like, I'm okay. Like it was a lot of getting rid of that fear. Those nerve sensations took me some time. I did some of that within the 3 to 6 month period too, where the first time I do a movement, I'm like, oh, I got these nerve pains. I knew they were nerve pains. I knew it was okay. My doctor had drilled it into my head, but it is jarring when you have shooting and stabbing pains in your stomach.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot of the time, sometimes if I touch my stomach, they'd go away. Or if I did it 3 times in a row, it would go away. And I started to realize what I needed to do to figure out my return. And I think sometimes people don't realize that.
Yeah, I think that's just really important to reiterate, just this phantom belly that you can experience and how it can just take longer to get to a certain point in your recovery that may not have been expecting, but also that you're still dealing with pains and fear in that initial first few months. But now let's move on to a little bit later on in the recovery timeline. So what did the 6 to 12 months of recovery, post-op recovery, look like for you?
Yeah, that's when I finally got out of even my light compression. I started doing more movements that were normal for me, getting back to the scarier things, like I said, like the toes to bar and things like that. Even in the 3 to 6 months, I definitely would swell more sometimes if I did core work or if I just worked out in general. But sometimes I would still swell and it wouldn't make sense, right? And so I had that during this time, the 6 to 12 months. I was still swollen, but there seemed to be more of a rhyme or reason to it. Oh, I did that at the
Mm.
gym. I'm more swollen. Not always, still. Sometimes it would just be like, "Well, I'm really swollen today. I don't know why. I didn't even work out." But in general, it did seem to correlate more with things I was doing at the gym. Around 8 months, I would say that I started to feel more like myself. Again, I was doing like muscle ups and workouts, higher level things. I was starting to lift a little bit more. I was starting to hold my breath again. I started to feel comfortable with breath holding a little bit, which that was another huge step right after the surgery because I definitely wasn't doing that Valsalva method or that method where you go before you lift heavy because I didn't want any extra pressure in my abdomen yet, obviously. But I
Mhm.
started to feel comfortable, like I could hold my breath again because I know for a while I was like, am I ever going to hold my breath again? Like it was scary. And I still was working on desensitizing the nerve pains and things like that. But I was doing most of the movements I wanted to do. I do remember that I started to get like I'd get ab cramps where like a part of my ab would just get hard and crampy. Like it was like a calf cramp, but in my ab, I never experienced that before in my life.
Oh,
And
interesting.
surgery, that's something new that would happen, especially because I was getting back to more typical core work, like hollow holds and things like that we were doing. Sometimes it would result in a cramp.
Okay.
So that was something different. But yeah, in general, I started to feel like more of myself. It felt really good. And it was exciting, especially from that 8 month mark on, because I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
it happened. Like I said, I thought I wasn't going to be doing CrossFit till 6 months. I was like going to be and then it all worked out quicker than I thought, which I think was really beneficial for me because I did have not the hardest recovery on the spectrum of this, but not an easy one in some of the things that I've seen with some of my clients who have had drastically different recoveries on both of those spectrums.
Yes.
So you know how that can go. Mine was definitely not on the easier end. But I think it helped because I had very conservative expectations and it kept me in a positive mindset. And so I think that can help people that want to get back to certain athletics, like not expecting to do it too soon and
Hmm.
really preparing for that because that can really help the whole like mental part of the journey.
Yeah.
So
And
I
then
think
was
that's
there
the
anything
biggest thing.
different that you noticed between the 6 to 12 month
Yeah.
post-op recovery and then just moving into 1 to 2 years post-op? Was there anything that stood out as different?
Yeah, yeah. I really was, my strength started after a year, started really going on all my just my lifts, right? Like deadlifts and front squats and all of those things. I started to see what was going to feel better after surgery, what movements, front loaded things like deadlifts, front squats, squat cleans. Those types of things started to feel really strong finally. And I was like,
Oh,
wow. Because I
great.
got my diastasis very strong before that. I was doing lots, all those movements. But the movements where I wasn't actively bringing my rectus together in a sit up or a kipping movement on the rig or something like that, that's where I started to feel better after surgery, which makes sense, right? Because I wasn't actively like moving, right?
Mhm.
And so just holding heavy weight, that's just stability, right?
Yeah.
So that was exciting to me because I was very nervous about not getting any of my function back, which was dramatic, but I just wanted to feel good. So I think I started to be like, wow, this actually feels better. And that was really exciting. The cramps went down a little bit. I still get them once in a while. I think that's just the thing I'm going to have, but I didn't get as many of the ab cramps during that point.
I think
And the
that's really
swelling
important
finally,
to just
go ahead.
mention. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but
Yeah.
I think that's such an important thing that you've mentioned that these cramps showed up later on.
Yes.
Some people will
Yes.
feel a cramping and stuff earlier, but it's for
Yep.
you, it's like it was a noticeable
Yeah.
symptom of
Mhm.
starting to exercise high level.
Yes.
And it's not, were you worried about them? Were you concerned that they were there, or how did you process that?
I think at first, not so much because I was just like, I'm getting back to it. It makes sense. And then I tried to figure out what do I need to do? Am I too much tension? Like I
Mhm.
tried to play with some things. Am I too much tension there? Do I need to distribute the tension? Do I need to breathe through it more? I tried to figure out my new body, right?
Yeah.
And so now once in a while they will happen still. I think it's just a thing that happens sometimes, but I think I figured it out a little bit more about what I need to do to avoid them, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
But it does
And I,
highlight how this recovery, especially if one of your goals is athletic in nature,
yeah.
that it's a long process.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
feeling this even 1 year to 2 years post-op, and like
Yes.
you said, they did decrease. You had
Yes.
less of them, but like you were still trying to figure it out.
Yes. And I think that's just the missing piece I just want people to know.
Yeah.
And whether, and maybe for you, it's not working out, but maybe you're just feeling good around the house or doing things like it still takes time. It's
Time.
just, it's a hard surgery.
Yeah.
For me, my swelling finally decreased around 13 months post tummy tuck, but it would still come and go a little bit even after that. I think that's important for people to know. But the swelling did go down. But that's when I started to notice that my bloating was in a different position. We've talked about that before on the podcast and on Instagram and everything. But my bloating was higher up, right? That stuff started to become more noticeable once I wasn't swollen all the time. Then you start seeing, oh, no, this is just like where I bloat now or things like that. So aesthetically, I started to figure that stuff out too. But I really like I remember at 2 years feeling so happy with my strength gains and
Oh,
just what
good.
I was doing and
Yeah.
just so happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like an important reminder as well, again, to anyone who's listening, that it's a long game.
Yeah.
Return to fitness is a long game. Even though you are cleared to start earlier on in your recovery, it doesn't mean you're going to be at that level right from the beginning. And it can take a long time. But the thing is, your health and your fitness, you're in it for the long haul anyway. So you want to take it slowly so that you can let your body adapt gradually to the changes that it's making through your efforts. But now you're here, Lisa, 6 years later. And has your relationship to your body shifted over these years? How do you
Yeah,
feel on physical, emotional level? What's happening there?
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about because I know, like, for me now, I'm 43. So I've got like perimenopausal stuff going on. And while my weight doesn't fluctuate a lot, it's just normal life things. And I do feel like I used to carry the fat that I had in my belly, right? And just genetically, if you looked at like my mom and stuff, like that's just genetically where we are. Some people, it's their thighs or their butt. Everyone's different. For me, that's where it was. But now, because of the surgery, it's weird. Like, I feel like if there is a couple pounds or fluctuation of things, it's like more in my sides or my back a little bit. Again, very mild, but aesthetically, that's been very interesting. The bloating has stayed in the same spot, that hasn't changed. Looking at that at the gym, I feel great. Besides the once in a while ab cramp I get, I feel good. However, I feel the strongest I've ever felt in general. It's just
Wow.
great. I just love it. I'm at the right point in my training where I'm not overtraining, but I'm training enough. And I'm very grateful. But I still get weird sensations in my belly sometimes. Once in a while, when I'm strict pressing, I'll get a weird zing. Or once in a while, things are still numb. The certain spots are just going to be weirdly numb forever. I had a whole thing with my belly button. If anybody followed me back where I thought I might have had a small hernia there, but it turned out to just be a suture, just this pokey suture. I don't want to get it messed with. I don't want any more surgery. So I just deal with this little pokey suture there, whatever. But there's just things like it's never really over. People want things to like just be fixed and over. It's going to be something. I'm very grateful. I'm not complaining at all, but it's not perfect. It's not like I never think about it or there's not other considerations there. I think they will be for a long time. It was a surgery. There's sutures in my body, things like that. But in general, I'm the most grateful I've felt at the gym ever. Part of it is I never thought I would feel this good at 43 there after years back when I was competing and I didn't have kids and I was like so focused on that. I thought those were my glory years. And in many ways they are. There were these golden years that changed me in a lot of positive ways, mentally and physically going through that. It's made me who I am today. But at the same time, I'm enjoying this phase of everything more because I'm more grateful, right? I've had my two
Mm,
C-sections, I had the surgery, and now I'm doing the things I want to do in the gym. And I got through all those things and learned all this stuff and have careers that have to do with that now because I'm so passionate about it. But like, I am so grateful that I can do what I want to do, that I think I'm the happiest I've ever been.
that's just
So,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
And it also is just a testament to your resilience and also a mix of the resilience that you have, but also the strategy, the mental and just logical strategies that you were using, common sense strategies of taking it slowly and just going through things at a slower pace to let you process and let your body also keep up with what you're doing with it, and also a testament to your patients too. So
Yeah.
before we wrap up, what message would you give to someone who's about to start this process,
Yeah.
especially if they're active and athletic like you?
I think the one thing I have really learned, whether it's right now or before the surgery, is the fact that I am so focused on what my body can do helps me truly love my body. Like I don't feel like my stomach looks perfectly after surgery by any means. There's other weird things with it now. It bloats in this weird spot. I've got the scars and this and that. Obviously, when I had my big belly before, I didn't like the way that looked. But what saved me, changed me, I don't know, all of it was that when I felt strong and good and felt like I could do the things I wanted to do with my body in both situations, it brings me such a sense of joy and gratitude in a way that certain imperfections there that aren't great, they don't bother me as much as they might.
Mm.
And so I think the biggest things I would say is find someone that can help you feel good and strong again. No matter where you're at in your journey, there is quality help out there. I don't want anyone to just keep silently suffering, no matter what stage they're in, because it is possible to get that help. And I really want everyone to be able to find that and feel it because it changed my life. So.
Beautiful.
So, you guys, I always enjoy sharing my journey, like from the emotional vulnerability of consultations to the triumphs and challenges of recovery. I hope my story sheds light on the multifaceted experience of undergoing tummy tuck as an athlete. Remember that every recovery path is unique, and it's essential to honor your body's signals, seek support when needed, and give yourself grace throughout the process. Recovery isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental too. Get the support for both your brain and your body, and do not plan to do this alone. If my experiences resonated with you or provided some clarity, please consider subscribing to Tummy Tuck Talk and leaving a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach and support more individuals navigating similar journeys. So thanks for being with us, and bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to Tummy Tuck Talk. A heartfelt thank you to Lisa for sharing her deeply personal and inspiring journey, from the emotional consultations to reclaiming her strength in the gym 6 years post-surgery. So her story is a testament to resilience and the importance of honoring the recovery process. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward.